What's up, guys? So I'm going to just kind of recap what me and Hayden talked about in the Sunday session. We had a whole thing, and we actually screen recorded it and recorded the audio, but both got messed up, so trying to splice them together just didn't make sense. I figured I would just run down everything again on this Sunday session number 2 that actually happened on a Tuesday, where we talk about zero to full-time reseller. So let's go over everything we're going to be covering. We're basically just going to be covering how to go from a part-time seller to a full-time reseller. Very basic. Again, this takes a lot of time and energy and experience and capital, lots of different things, but we're going to be going over this very basic and the things that worked for me and Hayden. Hayden's not with me today, so I'm going to be talking a little bit about his business as well as mine. You guys have probably heard a lot about mine, but we'll talk about his as we have completely different businesses. But first, starting from zero, we're going to talk about that here on the next slide. We're going to talk about goal setting, how we each scaled to full-time, strategies and methods used for this, and then financials of full-time. That's the one you're going to want to be locked in for. We're going to really break down the financials of everything you need to think about for that. So first, humble beginnings. Rome wasn't built in a day. I mean, like I said on the last slide, it's going to take a lot of time. Don't compare yourself to others like it says on the last bullet point of this slide. It's going to take time, guys, and you may see a lot of members in here posting those orange bars or on Amazon or 90-day totals on eBay. Don't compare yourself to all those people. There's no reason to compare yourself to them because you don't know how far along they are in their business. You don't know how long they've been doing this. You don't know the margins they're making. Maybe they're only making 5%. I'm sure most of these people posting these things are making really good money, but they've probably also been doing it for a long time. So don't compare yourself to them. It takes years to build up. And a great way to start is by starting with $0 selling junk from around your house. I kind of mentioned in this, I have a new series coming out called Flipping from Zero, where I'm doing this, flipping things that I don't need anymore that I found around the house. Going to create capital of that, take it to the thrift stores, and it's just going to be a fun little series. But I tell a lot of people like not to even get into retailer online until you do this, and then you take that money to the thrift stores and everything, because that's what teaches you actually how to run this game, whereas retail and online are very risky, and you can lose everything really fast if you go all in, especially. So definitely don't go all in. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. Your focus should be more on learning than making money at this point. That's kind of exactly what I was just saying. Don't go all in. Use your experiences in past products to use that for making future purchases. So what is the end goal? You want to set goals, guys. Set goals, but don't overwhelm yourself. Set small goals along the way. I like to set monthly goals, yearly goals. If you watch my videos at the beginning of every year, I set goals on what I want on each platform and different things like that, but also set monthly goals, and you'll be surprised that you can achieve them. I mean, set some attainable goals. Don't be setting like 1 million a month goals. Like, obviously we all want to do that, but set some good goals that you can hit, some listing goals, financial goals. So a lot of times Caleb will actually post in chat about listing goals, and he'll post like, hey, who's going to list 10 a day with me this week? So a lot of people will get in on that. Even if you can't, if you can list 5 a day, do that. If you can list 1 a day, just if you're doing eBay, make sure you list at least 1 item a day. If you can't, pull an old listing down and sell similar, and it counts. That is one of the biggest keys to eBay, is listing daily, showing daily activity. And it's also just a good routine to get in, listing multiple items a day. That is one way to really grow your store. Setting financial goals, how much you want to set aside, everything. We're going to talk about that later in the financial section. Try to get top rated seller. Top rated seller is huge on eBay and a great way to make extra sales and to boost yourself in the algorithm. And then, like we said, monthly selling goals. Be realistic and understand that reselling is evolving. Evolve with it. This one is huge. I'm actually going to make a video on this because I see so many like big reseller YouTubers talking about like, oh, eBay's down or the algorithm's broken, I can't make any sales. Like, people saying like that haven't evolved with the game. The game is constantly changing and you have to evolve with it. When I started out on eBay, like 15 years ago, you literally could just list something and it could sit for like 2 or 3 years and it would sell. It wouldn't really drop in the algorithm or anything. Now, just in the past couple years, like, that's changed, and I've had to evolve with it. Like, it's actually wild. I was actually saying like something's wrong with the algorithm like 2 or 3 years ago, and that's before I learned about you need to pull stuff down if it's not getting like any watchers or anything. The views are broken, so that's kind of a hard thing, but you can kind of tell by the watchers on it, and if it's not getting any view, or if it's not getting any watchers, it's been up for over like 6 months. You got to pull it down and then sell similar. And it's actually amazing how fast some of this stuff will sell. It boosts it back. It's like it just gets buried now on eBay. eBay is almost becoming like Mercari, like stuff selling like as soon as you list it. Not as soon as you list it, but like that type of an algorithm. So it's kind of crazy how things have changed, but don't be stuck in your old ways. There's a lot of old eBayers that don't want to change. They just want to list stuff and forget it and not go back and check their prices. Markets are constantly changing. That wasn't a thing when I started out reselling as well. Like, there's so much more competition now through COVID and everything. Everyone really hopped on this, and it's not a bad thing. I mean, you can make money on pretty much anything. You just got to get creative with it and just always evolve with it. Never be afraid to keep changing, because the platforms are going to continue to change. Don't overcomplicate things as well. Buy low, sell high. A lot of people try to make this so much more difficult than it actually is, and it's kind of wild to me. Like, a lot of people act like you need to run this like multi-million-dollar business, and that's just not the case. Like, buy items low, look up the sell-through rate, look up the sold comps. If it looks good, sweet, you're going to sell it high and sell it for more. It's not that difficult. Anyone can do this. It's a game of research. If you know your numbers, you know your sell-through rates, you know your sold comps, anyone can do this, and anyone can make a lot of money at this. Scale at your own pace. Like we talked about earlier, don't compare yourself to others. It's going to take time. Rome wasn't built in a day. So story time, how we each scaled to full-time. You guys kind of know my story. I kind of just started out when I was like 12 years old and selling Wii Fit boards. Obviously, I was just flipping like little hype items there, consoles and stuff, until probably about high school, when I was getting time to drive, and I didn't want to get a job. I saw all my friends getting jobs because they had to pay for gas, and I was like, I don't want to do that, so let's just ramp this up and see if we can make a little extra more. I was making a couple $1,000s a year probably, which for a high school student, pretty good. Then in college, again, need some money to pay for stuff. Didn't want to get a job, so I ramped it up even more. Was making about $40,000 a year each year for my 4 years of college. Then after college, everyone's telling me, you need to get a job, go to these job fairs so you can get a job in marketing. That's what your degree is in. And I'm like, I really don't want to do that. Like, I'm making 40K on the side while being a full-time student. I know I can ramp this thing up even more. So that's when I decided to give it a go for full-time. First year I did $100,000 in gross, and the second year I did over $100,000 in profit, and haven't looked back since. I think it's, what did I graduate? May of 2019, so it's been 4 years now. That's crazy, but that's my story. Again, you guys have probably heard that 100 times, so sorry to bore you with that, but Hayden's story is a little different. He also went to Ohio State, graduated the same year I did. He always sold on the side as well, but not quite at the level I did. He kind of did a lot more hype stuff. Then he got a real job out of college. I think he had a couple jobs. He was just doing some online stuff where he could do it from home, which was really nice, and it helped him actually scale his side hustle. And he would use the money that he earned from his full-time job, and he was just pumping it into his business and really scaling. And in those years, those like 2 years I think before he went full-time, he really just used that money. So like, if you have extra money coming in from your full-time job, like, that is huge in helping you scale your reselling business, and why you should hold on to that as long as you can, because that's what you can really use to fuel the scale. Without that money coming in, you're strictly having to go off of your inconsistent reselling income, and that's what we're going to talk about in a little bit when we get into the financials. So his story, I think, is a lot more relatable to a lot more people, because I've never really had a real job. He did. He turned that real job and helped fuel his side hustle, which ended up becoming a full-time job, which is pretty cool. So what is our end goal? Oh, wait. We already did this one. Sorry, I hit up. I'm filming this at like midnight, by the way. So if I say some crazy stuff, that's what's going to happen. This is going to be very raw, too. I got a couple other videos to edit, so we're going to just ride this one out how it is. Building a base for your business. Cheap inventory to build up listings. That's key. I think going to like thrift stores, garage sales, estate sales, liquidation places, things from around your house, friends. Like these are massive ways to grow your inventory. If you can find like a bin store or a liquidation pallet place, like if you can find a couple good ones of those, I go to a couple of those, and it's crazy how much you can build up your inventory. That's actually one of the ways I helped scale my business. Was I bought a couple pallets, and that's a way to get a lot of really cheap inventory, and sell it all individually. Like it's a lot of work, but it's a great way to get more listings up, get some more views on your eBay stuff. Selling stuff from your friends or around the house is huge too. Like tell people what you do, and it's crazy the type of inventory that you will get. A lot of people are just getting rid of stuff, and they'll either just give it to you, stuff that they were going to donate, and it's really good stuff, or they'll like split the margins with it. I got a video game recently with a family friend and split the margins with it on them. Had a bunch of Mario N64 games in, so like you just never know what people are going to come to you with, so definitely don't hide it. Tell people what you're doing. And again, reinvest everything if you're trying to scale. If you're not trying to scale, like that's kind of when you can start paying yourself, is when you're comfortable. Then you can start taking payment out. But if you're trying to scale heavily, reinvest back into the business, and that's where having that full-time job is very important. Figure out what you enjoy selling as well. That's your bread and butter. For me, that's hats, that's clothing, that's shoes, things that I really enjoy. Crocs, obviously. Doesn't mean that has to be your interest. Whatever your interest is, that's what you should be finding. You can literally make money selling anything. Definitely don't go in selling stuff that you're not interested in, or it's not going to be fun, and I think it's going to fizzle out a little bit. Keep grinding as you grow and as you get bigger. Stick to the basics, though, that helped your store build up to what it was. And cross-list your inventory. This is another great way to pump sales, actually, to your account, or how to pump sales just in general, by cross-listing, selling on eBay, selling on Mercari, selling on Facebook Marketplace, selling on Amazon if you're not on there. If you're selling like used clothing, Poshmark's a good used clothing place. I'm not huge on them, but if you have used clothing, it's perfect for there. So cross-listing your inventory and getting as many eyeballs on it as possible is a great way to fuel your scale as well. And listing every day, we already talked about that. Always be open to finding new places to source inventory. This is huge. Like, it's great to have your few honey holes or your stores that you know are really good, but as everyone knows, like those stores can fizzle out. Burlington could lose the Nike deal again and be horrible for like 6 months, like them and Ross were when they lost that deal. Then they get it back and they're on fire, but don't use that as your sole place of getting inventory, because once they stop getting it, you're kind of hosed. So don't put all your eggs in one basket. Make sure to always be learning, always be looking for new places to get inventory, looking on Facebook Marketplace, on Google, looking for liquidation places, looking online for online leads. Like whatever your interest is, always be looking for more and more. Always be talking with people, networking with people. I think we're talking about that in a little bit, actually. But never settle. Always be looking for more and more places, and before you know it, the inventory will just come to you. So here's the slide that gets into it deep. How to financially scale to full-time. Only consider full-time once you're making more on your hustle than your 9 to 5, and this is in profit. This is only considering it. This is not saying like, hey, you're making $50,000. Once you hit that $50,000 mark, boom, you're done, and you're gonna hear why. Not everyone's meant to do this full-time, guys. A lot of people in here make a great side income, and this is great for your families to help you make extra money on the side, but you got to understand all the things that go into this full-time. You got to weigh all the pros and cons. Health insurance, 401k that the job provides. You don't get that. You have to pay up for health insurance, and it's not cheap, guys. I pay a lot of money for health insurance, and it doesn't cover much. I know some jobs, the health insurance might not be much better, but I certainly ensure you that it is cheaper. And the 401k, like, you don't get that when you're your own boss. You're not under a company, or if you have your own company, you can't get a 401k. So I have to invest in IRAs, Roth IRAs, SEP IRAs, those type of things as my retirement. So it's just things to weigh and to think of. And then, kind of like we talked about earlier, reselling has a very inconsistent income versus your set income. So different times of the year are going to be slower. Yeah, you can still make sales during those slower parts of the year, but they're not always going to have that set income that I'm making this much every month. Every single month I'm making this much money. Like that's not going to happen with your inconsistent reselling income. That could be, in June I made $5,000 in gross, and then in December I made $40,000. Like, it's so inconsistent and it can change. So it's just something you have to weigh and decide. Like, once you're making that steady flow, honestly, I would say what that first one says, once you can do that for a couple years, then that's probably when you consider it, because I feel like everyone could probably have one really good year if they have a couple products. Like, you need to constantly be sourcing, kind of like this last one says, have so many sources for finding inventory that you don't even have to look anymore. That way you will always have inventory. This is literally me. I barely ever have to look for inventory anymore. I have so many people that come to me or tell me like about things, that sales that are going on, or suppliers that come to me that have all these deals. Until you have that, like, you should not be constantly having to grind out looking for inventory, or your business could suffer. Your livelihood, if you are doing this full time, like, if you don't have a million places to get inventory where you can wake up each day and say like, oh, I got about like 10 places I can go and I know I can find profit there, then you should definitely not be doing this. You shouldn't be like, it shouldn't be like a paycheck to paycheck, inventory to inventory type of thing. So, and have a decent nest egg build up for emergency. This is big, because again, you don't have great health insurance, and you also want to have a nest egg build up in case you need a big purchase. Like, what if a big purchase comes up and you don't have that extra money to go all in on it on something you know is going to be a quick flip and you'll be able to turn that cash over. So, and it's always just good to have extra cash build up in the savings. So I just felt this slide was very important to talk about the financials and everything that goes into it. Everyone sees the glory of, oh, full-time resellers, they get to do everything they want. They have all the freedom, and it's like, honestly, sometimes I envy people with a 9 to 5 because they get the weekends off. They only have to work these set hours. I'm over here, we're usually working like 10-hour days, but I am working for myself. I don't have anyone telling me what to do. So that is the pros of it, but it's definitely not an easy career, guys. It takes a lot of time. So I just want to be upfront and honest about that. Definitely weigh all of these things financially, as well as all the other stuff, before you make that leap, and absolutely make sure that you know what you're doing, where to find inventory, and you have all of your financial stuff set up and ready to go. So now into other methods of acquiring inventory. These are all pretty much talked about already, but once you built your business with free and cheap inventory, you should have some capital to move on to some bigger buys. So this is kind of after you're through the thrifting stage and the selling things from around your house, the garage sale stage. That's when you're going to want to look into liquidation pallets. Honestly, I would look into liquidation pallets right away, because that's similar to thrift stores and stuff. You're getting that inventory really cheap. A lot of those places have bins where they'll throw stuff in on different days for like $1, $2, so you can get really cheap, good inventory there. But then after that, that's when you can consider doing retail or online arbitrage. You don't have to. I mean, a lot of people still just do thrifts and liquidation stuff, or just one or the other, and do pretty well. So do what you're interested in, like we talked about earlier. Final tips and tricks to being successful long term. Again, always be learning and adapting to the game, networking with everyone that you meet at these liquidation places or at the stores. Most people are open books and they want to just share their business, so it's good to talk to them, because I've gotten some really good leads from these places. Like 2 of my major suppliers I got just from talking to people at some of these pallet places. So it's definitely essential that I don't even like talking to people, but you have to do it. So even if you're an introvert, try to talk to people. It's kind of fun to talk to people about reselling stuff, and it's fun to reach out to them about that. But always be learning and adapting to the platforms in the game, because it's always changing. Like we said earlier, don't go all in on one product unless you're absolutely sure of it from past experiences. So I used to always buy 1 or 2 of everything just to be sure. Now when I'm testing products out, I'll buy like 4 or 5 of them, just because I've got a little more confidence in them and from past experiences. But then once I've had success with that product, if that product or another one similar to it pops up in the future, I'm ready to go all in on it, because I know it was good. Or if it was bad, I know to stay away from it. Know your sell-through rates. That's absolutely huge on eBay. If you don't know what that is, reach out to me in chat, or check on my YouTube channel, or type in sell-through rates on eBay. I think that's actually pretty highly ranked on, not eBay, on YouTube. I think it's pretty highly ranked on there. It might be the highest ranked eBay sell-through rate video. Basically, you're just comparing the actives versus the solds, and in that video, I can do better justice of explaining like what good sell-through rates are. So definitely check that video out. If you need help finding it, just tag me in chat. And stay ahead of the curve. Buy inventory in the off season and sell in demand. That's what I love doing, actually. So a lot of the time, like right now, I'm buying a lot of jackets. I'm buying some boots. Shout out to Nordy Rack Mamba and calling out those boots the other day. Those were massive. $11 for hunter boots, and those things go for like 70 to 90 come winter. So those are going to be money. I cleaned up on those, and I know a lot of other people did, so it's good to stay ahead of the seasons. And the one big thing we actually do here in Bread and Butter is the seasonal stuff. So we sell a lot of Christmas and Halloween decorations, and then after the holidays, we can actually pick them up at the stores for like 75 to 90% off, and then you hold that for a year and you sell it at retail. So if you guys watched my recent tour, I have that whole top right of my warehouse, that whole top right rack filled with Christmas and Halloween inflatables that I got, and I'm just holding them for a year and then sell them for pretty good money. So that's just thinking ahead, and that's where having that extra capital is huge. And then lastly, find a good CPA. What me and Hayden talked about here is we both use the same CPA, and I've used other ones in the past and they're okay, but they're usually just trying to get your taxes done and not actually trying to help you. If you find a good one, they're going to say like, hey, you can do this and you can save this much. Like, it's kind of crazy, actually. So find a good CPA that actually knows the e-commerce game, and they can help save you some extra money in taxes and telling you all the different things to track that you can write off. So I'm not going to go too deep into that because I'm not super knowledgeable on that. That's why I pay a good CPA, but definitely shop around and try to find a good one of those. So that's where we opened it up to questions. If you have any questions or anything, feel free to tag me or Hayden in general chat or general questions, one of those, and we can address all the things we talked about in here. So appreciate everyone for watching.